Jack Kerouac said, "The best teacher is experience, and not through someone's distorted point of view." The bike was loaded with my wife Jeanette's stuff and mine. Both panniers had dry bags strapped to the top. This was Jeanette's first day of riding with me in California. Leaving LA in rush hour traffic, we made it to Santa Monica and headed north on the Pacific Coast Highway. The weather was gray and dreary, but it was a blast to be on the bike together. We've gone riding together before, and although she rides, she's a pillion for the week. It's a transition after riding 3 weeks by yourself to having a passenger. She's easy, but now I would have to think about the needs of another person. Riding out on the Santa Barbara Pier was the required touristy thing to do, followed by clam chowder and crab cakes.
I think each twist and tangle of fate that brought my heart to you.
We headed up through the Los Padres National Forest and broke through the clouds. The sun appeared and it was a glorious ride. Continued through Santa Ynez area and Los Olivos. The vineyards and berry farms were endless. It was exciting to see a different part of California. We loved the coast, but this was an opportunity to see California's agriculture at its finest. When we got to San Luis Obispo, a decision was to be made. Either hug the coast to Big Sur, Carmel, and Monterey, or take a detour to Paso Robles. We had seen the iconic coast and wanted to again, but were hungry to check out something new, and some wine tasting was an extra motivator. Paso Robles it was. On arrival, we explored town and found a quaint motel at the right price, about half of what we spent on dinner. We walked about 10 minutes into town, did a tasting, and then were off to dinner. It was a calm day together and a great introduction to being on the road as a couple. I was looking forward to the week and excited to see Jeanette's enthusiasm for the road. On Jeanette's second day riding with me, we woke up early, but we were still unsure of where to go today. Sequoia National Park was the first choice. We were checking the weather, and I remembered that parts of the Pacific Coast Highway were still closed. Besides, it was familiar from a trip years ago. I reviewed the route I had previously planned, and it was clear why I initially wanted to go see the big trees. It was also the twists, turns, and general awesomeness of the ride. Off to Sequoia it was. Heading out of the center of Paso Robles, we found ourselves in a sea of vineyards. Rows of grapes and vines stretching for miles, one vineyard after another. Arriving in Three Rivers and having some great Mexican food for lunch, we were ready to head into the park. The riding was right up there with many of the great roads, including the Alps in Europe. Elevation changes, switchbacks, and flowing rhythmic riding with stellar views. It was the kind of work I like to do on the motorcycle. Traffic and getting stuck behind cars and RVs were the only bottlenecks in the experience, but even that had the benefit of slowing down the ride to appreciate the view. General's Highway to the giant forest for viewing the immense sequoias was the culmination of a great day. Trees that are a millennia or two old were uniquely recognizable. The sequoias were a sight to behold. We continued in the national park and decided to grab a room at a lodge. A bit pricier, but it would position us for some super riding in the morning. The fog was thick and the mist in the air mixed with intermittent rain made for a wet start. I loaded up the bike and we loaded on the layers, including the rain suits. We had very few breaks in the rain, but it was a great ride through the remainder of Sequoia. We exited the park with the intent of getting to Yosemite regardless of weather conditions. We were elated to enter Yosemite National Park, even though the rain was coming down and the fog engulfed us like a heavy wet blanket. We climbed an elevation, the fog thickened, and the road twisted and turned. There was a break in the fog as we approached Yosemite Valley. Spectacular sights and a spectacular break in the fog allowed for some pictures of this iconic place. It was a long day as we were on the road for almost 9 hours and 285 miles, most of which was in fog, rain, and temperatures in the 40s, but it was still a great day. It was getting late and we decided to head in the direction of Napa. The saga began again. Fog, rain, dipping temperatures, twisty roads, elevation changes, and dreaming of chocolate chip cookies, and a good night's sleep. Fast forward 3 hours and we ended up stopping for the night in Stockton on our way out west. We were both happy to have a hotel room. Jeanette was extra cold and tried to warm up while I unloaded the mud and rain-soaked bike. In any case, we were safe, dry, together, and now had a bunch more memories and tales to tell. It was a late start today. We were recovering from a day of splendid riding in the rain, fog, and cold temperatures. We woke in Stockton and took our time getting ready. At breakfast, we met this cool guy who talked about an iron butt type event in the Philippines. He was a combat veteran and was in the U.S. military for 25 plus years. He was shot multiple times and spent 2 years in a wheelchair, but was now riding again. He was happy and had good energy, and you could tell he was a good dad. He and his daughter were talking it up, and it was clear she was proud of her dad. His focus was on living life, and his smile and the light in his eyes told you that. It was a great breakfast, and it was a privilege to connect with another family and hear their story. Leaving Stockton, we headed towards Napa. We made some calls and found a bed and breakfast in Cloverdale, California, north of Healdsburg. We entered Napa Valley and were happy to be past Napa and the Bottle Rock concert crowd. Heading up St. Helena Highway 29, then past Yountville, Oakville, Rutherford, St. Helena, and Calistoga, we were in wine country. The road, 128 out of Calistoga and up to Healdsburg, kicked ass in a good way. What a fun road, riding through Napa, Sonoma, and miles of grapes. Well, it's a magical place. The ride from Calistoga toward Healdsburg was a wave of twisties and a sea of vineyards. What an incredible find in Cloverdale. An historic bed and breakfast where the owners were also vintners and produced a great selection of wines. The grounds had a vibrant energy, and the attention to detail included a personal touch in the gardens, the porch, and the house with impressive rooms. Kelly & Young Wine Garden Inn was a welcome experience that was authentic and fun. Afterwards, we walked into town and went to the trading post to share an additional bite to eat. We met some more interesting folks, a dude on a weekend solo motorcycle trip, and we exchanged stories and road recommendations. It was a good day. Finding the B&B was the definition of serendipity, gratitude. It's about the people you meet on the road. It was a special night at the B&B in Cloverdale, but it was time for some riding. South to Healdsburg, we rode through this upscale special wine region town. From Healdsburg, we rode 116, hugging the Russian River, through where else? The Russian River Valley. Vineyards and a sea of grapes, the road twisted, turned, and took us closer to the coast. It was a spectacular sight. The river pressed against rolling fields of grapes. The trees, the smells, the small towns along the way, and the anticipation of the Pacific Ocean all kept my hand on the throttle and the engine revving higher and higher. As we crossed the final hill and took the last turn to head south, there it was, the Pacific Ocean, and we were on the Pacific Coast Highway. Epic views, an epic road, and some epic riding. Did I say epic? The view was surreal and was one of those sights that looks like a picture painted by the universe. We stopped at a couple of pullouts to enjoy the landscape and soak it all in, as well as snap one too many pictures. Back on the bike and a few miles further south, a stop for lunch at Bodega Bay was in order. Peering out the window from inside the restaurant revealed seals playing in the bay. Determining where to stay was the challenge. Typically, it hadn't been such an effort, but prices were at a premium everywhere still. Memorial Day weekend and Bottle Rock were to blame. We headed inland and thought Santa Rosa would be a good in-between stop. It was getting late and we wanted to settle in. After settling in and doing a laundry, we were looking for something to do and eat. Downtown Santa Rosa was a nice stop. We stopped at the Russian River Brewery. Finding a couple seats at the bar, which wasn't easy, we were relieved and ready for some beer and grub. Several beers later, a pizza pie, and great conversation with those on our side of the bar and the other, we were ready to head back to the hotel. It was another serendipitous experience. Everyone exchanging their stories over a few beers. It's about the people you meet on the road. Today was a day to indulge a bit, so we're heading back to Napa. A mini vacation from long days on the road, especially since Jeanette would be going back to Florida in a couple of days. Making our way from Santa Rosa to Napa, we passed through Sonoma and took Trinity Road over the mountain near Mount Vader to Napa. The route was narrow, twisting, climbing, elevation changes, and deep drop-offs that made it fun and challenging. The descent into Napa was abrupt, and we were in the valley. Temperatures were reaching 95 degrees Fahrenheit on the bike. The heat was the kind that starts to bake you. No humidity like back home in Florida. We headed a bit south to Yountville and stopped for lunch at Bistro Gentil. This is what I meant about indulging. We both ordered the coq au vin, Jeanette had a glass of wine, and I stuck to an iced tea. After lunch and back on the bike, it was south on the St. Helena Highway for a bit, then turning east to the Silverado Trail and north to Calistoga, passing vineyards of every wine we've been fortunate enough to have experienced over the years. There was no traffic, and it was a flowing, relaxed ride. Arriving in Calistoga, we were soaked in sweat. Finding our way into the hotel room and a break from the 95-degree plus temperature, we cooled down, showered up, and headed out for hopefully a tasting or two. Dinner was at an upscale restaurant and it was a scene. Did I mention about indulging? It was an enjoyable dinner, and yes, a few more wine tastings. The walk back to the room was relaxing and the perfect end to a great evening. There was one more riding day together, and Jeanette had a great taste of the adventure. 4 weeks on the road. This week, Jeanette, my wife, joined me. I had been traveling solo for 3 weeks and was looking forward to sharing the experience with her. I wanted her to have the opportunity to experience firsthand what it was like for me on the journey. Jack Kerouac said, "The best teacher is experience, and not through someone's distorted point of view." I had come to believe that adventure finds you, you don't find adventure. 4 weeks on the road, the adventure continues. The occurrence and development of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way. That's the definition of serendipity, and that, I believe, is when adventure finds you. Many suggest that adversity, mishaps, interruptions, and lots of risk are the key ingredients of an adventure. While I can't deny that perseverance and pushing through in the face of a challenge can be an adventure, but for me the most rewarding adventures come from those serendipitous events. A chance encounter, a wrong turn, a last-minute change of plans, or a spark of inspiration that sets you on a new course. This trip has taught me what I've always known, but in the past practiced more naturally, that there are no coincidences. There's meaning and a rhythm of life, and you have to slot in, sync up, get in the flow, and dance to the beat. Let it happen, let go, and be open to the possibilities. There truly is only one thing to do, and that's to keep moving forward. Roll on the throttle. On the last day of the adventure with Jeanette, I was so happy that she enjoyed herself, was engaged, and embraced every moment. There was an adjustment from solo to 2-up motorcycle travel, but that was part of the adventure. I was excited to have shared the experience. I picked an overnight that was close enough to San Francisco so Jeanette could make her early morning flight the next day. Sausalito was the right pick, a place with beautiful views and just a 45-minute ride to the airport. We left Calistoga just in time to escape the Napa Valley heat. Heading west to grab 101 South, we connected with a road full of sweepers and twists through vineyards. There is no shortage of sights and great roads in this part of the world. Getting off the 101 through Petaluma and on our way to Point Reyes, the environment changed. The views were expansive, the temperature dropped, and we began to taste the salty sea air in our helmets. After a filling lunch, we cruised the coast and made a stop at Stinson Beach. It was packed, and what a sight to behold. The ocean, the people, and the beach with a backdrop of the mountains was a special thing to behold. Riding up to Muir Woods and up over Mount Tamalpais, we were in Sausalito. We found a cozy hotel at a reasonable price. The location had gorgeous views of San Francisco and the bay, which was amazing. We walked around and explored a bit. We were meeting up with my cousin who I hadn't seen in years. Yes, it's about the people you meet on the road, especially when you get to hang with family. Tomorrow, I would say goodbye to Jeanette and would see her in another 20 days. Another change, another adjustment, and the unknown. I was prepared to roll on the throttle and experience more of those moments when serendipity finds you. Adventure awaits. Hey there, fellow travelers. I hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for coming along on the journey. I'll be posting new episodes pretty regularly, so if you're interested in following along, then I'd be really grateful if you did that YouTube thing. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell down below and you'll be informed when new stuff is uploaded. If you really like the video, then give it a big thumbs up and feel free to leave a cool comment as well. Thanks for traveling along. See you on the road next time soon on the channel.